Joining me today is Dan Weber. He's the founder of the Association of Mature American Citizens. Dan, I read the piece by AMAC saying that you feel that President Obama is touting economic growth in a deceptive way. So let's just get right into it. What specific claims made by the president or his administration do you find to be deceptive?
Basically, he's been out there in the hustings saying that the economy is good. Now, it is true the stock market has gone up, but other than that, all the other true economic indicators are poor, especially the gross national product.
So let's start there. What specifically do you find to be displeasing about the gross national product? And then further, what kind of points of reference are you using to say this is a good target or this is what I would like to see?
Okay, I'm actually reading a chart, which it's from a cluster stock, which is the chart of the day, and it's the effect of the fiscal stimulus on the gross national product. And it just shows that since the stimulus in 2009, we actually had an increase in 2009 until the first quarter of 2010, and then it went down dramatically, and it's been actually decreasing. And why I like that chart is it illustrates the true, what I call the true domestic product.
Well, but let's stop there because what specific numbers are you looking at? Tell me, because if we're going to make comparisons, it would be good to say,
Sure.
well, what was the growth rate and what is it now and what's displeasing about
Exactly.
that? Yeah.
In the first quarter of 2010, the growth rate was 1.5%. In the fourth quarter of 2011, for example, it was minus 1.5%. Since then, it's been up and down, leveling, but again, in the minus factor.
Okay, so what in your mind could President Obama be doing differently? So you say, from what you're saying, it sounds like you're saying that stimulus did not work. Do you
Right.
know, had that stimulus not been done, that mathematically speaking, those numbers would be even worse? I mean, it's just basic economics 101. What would you like to have done differently if not the stimulus that would have made those numbers higher? Very specifically.
Real simple, David. Instead of giving the money to government, which he did to create jobs, he should have given the money to free enterprise. For example, if he had offered companies tax incentives for hiring new workers, and for example, now if a company invests in their company, they have to borrow the money. Well, the government could have loaned the money tax-free to any enterprise who was going to hire people. To me, that was such a simple economic solution, and why nobody did that is beyond me.
Now, what do you mean that the stimulus was used for the government to hire people? Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, what he did, as you know, he tried to get the shovels digging into the earth and started with these federal projects. And to me, that was temporary money. Number one, a lot of the jobs so-called created, quote, and or saved, remember that one? Were teachers' jobs and jobs who work for public unions. So to me, it was a payback of the election campaign to the unions.
Yeah, but Dan, I think that we've got a lot of stuff just flat out factually wrong here. I mean, I'll give you my opinion of how
Sure.
I see this, and you tell me where I'm wrong. Number
Sure.
one, a lot of those federal infrastructure projects were still contracted out to private companies. So you were giving money to private companies through government projects. But further, I think the most telling data that you seem to be missing is that for all of the talk for years from conservatives about reducing the size of government, President Obama has actually reduced the number of government employees net. There are less real net government jobs today than when President Obama took over, and there are more private sector jobs today than when President Obama took over. George W. Bush, on the other hand, hold on a second, Dan.
Sure,
George
Dan.
W. Bush, on the other hand, exploded the size of government and the number of government jobs. Why aren't conservatives giving President Obama credit for reducing the number of government jobs?
Okay, well, two reasons. Number one, the average pay of the federal worker has skyrocketed so that it's 30, 40% higher than for private enterprise. So the cost of government has not gone down.
But that's not happened under if the 30 to 40% number has not happened under President Obama only. And number two, you're not taking into consideration if you remove inflation adjustments from that, it is far lower. It seems like an irrelevant statistic when discussing President Obama, which is what your article sought to do.
Yeah, well, the reason really is if you look at the problem we're facing, in AMAC's opinion, is the national debt and the deficit.
Are you aware that President Obama has reduced the deficit more during a 4-year period than any 4-year period in the last 60 years? Are you aware of that fact, Dan?
That fact is incorrect.
It is not incorrect. Explain to me how it's incorrect.
You're talking about the national debt or you're talking about the deficit?
I'm talking about the deficit.
Okay, so what you're saying is the increase in the deficit has decreased.
That's not true, actually. This is the type of kind of kabuki math that's often used. This was the Congressional Budget Office and PolitiFact examined this claim from President Obama, and there is no question that if you go back over 60 years, the biggest deficit decrease during any 4-year period was experienced under President Obama. Full stop. And I don't blame you for not knowing because so many people have no idea.
It was under President Clinton that the biggest deficit decrease in modern history.
No, Dan, it's just not the case. Just you need to research this. In the last 60 years, President Obama, the largest deficit decrease. If you're not going to agree with just basic facts, it'll be hard to discuss it. Let me take one step back because it sounds like you're just not going to agree with me on the facts, and that makes it kind of complicated.
Yeah, where did you get those facts from, David? I'd love to check them because that's certainly everything I've been looking up doesn't say that.
You and the audience should Google PolitiFact, Barack Obama, largest budget deficit decrease 60 years. It will come up. But in the last minute and a half or so that we have left,
sure,
what would you like to see President Obama do in the rest of his second term, thinking proactively, not to try to make him look bad, but rather a solution, something he could do that in your opinion would improve the economy?
Okay, first of all, like I said, he should promote private jobs by changing the tax structure. Increasing the taxes was a mistake. The people who have small businesses are paying higher taxes now, about 7% more. And because of that, they're going to hire less people.
That's incorrect, Dan. I mean, again, we seem to be at such a fundamental disagreement about basic economics. It's widely known that if you decrease the top marginal tax rate on the richest Americans, they don't hire more people. They save that money. And in fact, there was just a big study put out showing that the top 1% are hoarding cash at alarming rates. They are not investing. It is not leading to any more hiring.
See, what you're doing is you're comparing Obama's friends, which are the billionaires, the Bill Gates, the Buffetts. I'm talking about
that's two people, Dan. Dan, that's two people.
The average working people who started a small business, a family business, they're looking to hire people. Let me tell you something. When they get more money, they don't sock it away. They put it back into their businesses.
All right, Dan.
My daughter would love to do that, and the government just raised their taxes about 7%.
Unfortunately, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and your daughter, whatever it is that they may want to or be doing, are not representative of every single study which shows that rich people save their money when they get a tax cut. We're just not agreeing, but it's a very, very interesting conversation. I've been speaking with Dan.
And keep talking, because the more the people out there learn, that you and I will learn, the better off the whole country will be. God bless you.
Hopefully people learn something. Dan Weber, Association of Mature American Citizens. Thank you for being on today.